If you're thinking of moving to Denver, you can fix the house. What you cannot fix is a daily drive or a dead routine. Now, Denver is awesome, but let me help you not mess this move up. Real talk, I've seen people land in the perfect house, but they still feel a little bit off. And then I've watched others take a flyer on a place they weren't even excited about, and they end up winning at life out here. So the friction really lives in the details that nobody flags, like realizing one exit on I-25 just added 25 minutes to your morning, or that your quick coffee run now depends on which side of Highlands you're actually on. And if you've been hearing that Denver is over, or it's too expensive, or it's not what it used to be, that's great and all. But the city didn't fall apart. It just grew up. People are still moving here. It just with smarter and better instincts, that less patience and nonsense that they have. That's why I rank Denver's suburbs into tiers for 2026. And it's based on how they actually live once the honeymoon wears off. Not all of these are crowd pleasers, but that's the point. So the real question is, are you about to nail this move, or are you going to make it way harder than it needs to be? Now, before we start ranking suburbs, strip the list away. This is what living here really feels like. I've watched people move here and convinced that they nailed it because the house looked amazing online. The price felt right, the photos were perfect. 6 months later, all they talk about is the traffic, the parking, or sitting in their cars staring at brake lights while the radio loops the same news over and over again. And I've seen the opposite. People who felt unsure from day one, questioning the area, wondering if they settled. Then a random Tuesday hits, the sun's out, the air's dry, the mountain looks fake in the distance, we'll call it. A quick loop on the Cherry Creek Trail becomes normal, and suddenly everything just works. So life settles instead of shouting, right? No rankings ever tell you that part. Denver doesn't just punish bad taste, it punishes bad fit. The city rewards alignment. When your lifestyle and your location match, it's magic. When they don't, it's friction everywhere. And most people don't end up where they think they will. They land somewhere in the middle, which is exactly where we're starting. Tier C is where the honeymoon ends early. It's not some dramatic way. Everything's awful or anything like that. It's more like a slow drip of friction you didn't budget for. This tier usually looks fine on paper. Price feels doable, the house feels bigger. You tell yourself you'll figure it out. And then life starts collecting interest. Day one feels quiet in a good way. More sky, wider streets. You hear the birds in the morning instead of delivery trucks. Night one feels calm, almost peaceful. Now you fast forward a few weeks. Mornings turn into windshield time. Evenings get quieter than expected. The drive home after dark feels a lot longer than the map said it would, especially when you're crawling along stretches of I-25 south of Lone Tree or looping C-470 after work. That silence, sometimes it's relaxing, sometimes it's isolating, and it depends on the day. This is where compromises show up fast. Not abstract ones, daily ones. Groceries become a plan instead of a stop. Meeting friends means coordination instead of spontaneity. Now, you start noticing how often you're checking the clock instead of enjoying the moment. I see this especially with buyers who stretch just enough to get the space. Now, they told themselves the commute wouldn't really matter. Then Tuesday through Thursday hit, traffic stacks up, one stalled car on I-25 or I-70, and that whole evening slides. You're home later, cooking later, decompressing less. No one warned you that predictability matters more than raw distance. Regional traffic data shows in Denver commute times can swing from 30 to 50% day to day, depending on minor incidents or weather. Now that variability is what wears people down. So here's the tricky part. Tier C isn't bad, that's the trap. It's workable, it's livable, and that makes the friction harder to name. You don't regret the move, you just feel off. Life kind of takes a little bit more effort than it should. So you watch buyers realize this within 60 to 90 days. That's not a guess, it's pattern recognition. Search behavior shows people in these outer ring zones reopening Zillow far sooner than expected, usually at night, pulling their search 10 to 20 minutes closer, and even if it means less house. Same budget, different priorities, less square footage, but more time back. And the data really backs this feeling up. Regional mobility and planning data show higher short-term churn on the outer ring communities compared to the ring suburbs, the inner ring suburbs. So there's not like mass exits, it's just micro adjustments. People learning in real time what they're willing to trade and what they're not. Commute tolerance has a ceiling, and most people don't really find it until they hit it. Some examples of this tier C are like Castle Pines, Parker, Roxborough and Littleton, like southern part of Highlands Ranch, northeast Thornton, Brighton, and southeast Aurora. Now here's the real talk moment. Tier C asks you to be honest about your energy, not your aspirations. So your actual Tuesday, are you okay with planning everything? Are you cool with trading convenience for calm? Do you recharge large and quiet, or do you need friction and movement to feel alive? So quick gut check. Drop a comment. Tell me which one value that you are more right now. Do you value more time or space? That answer quietly determines whether Tier C feels peaceful or heavy. Now, Tier C can work beautifully for the right person, but if it doesn't fail slowly. It nudges you every day until you notice. And once you notice, you can't really unsee it. And that swing surprises almost everyone. See, most buyers don't land in the place they fantasize about. They land in the place that actually fits their life once that Zillow spiral wears off. I watch this pattern repeat constantly. A couple relocates here, locked in on being close to Denver. Dual income, hybrid schedules, convinced walkability and patios were the move. Then real life shows up. Commutes start to matter more than vibes. Space starts beating proximity. Suddenly, places like Central Park, Highlands Ranch, or parts of Arvada feel a lot more logical than whatever looked cool on Instagram at midnight, especially once they realize their daily life revolves around that I-25 spine or a straight shot towards DTC or Denver Tech Center. It's not a postcard version of downtown. Now, let me give you a clean example. I worked with one client like that. So one of them was a hybrid worker, the other was in the office 5 days a week. Month 1, they were all in, coffee shops, new restaurants. Month 3, they're timing grocery runs, frustrated with parking, realizing half their day is just logistics. They're backing out of the driveway at 7:30 a.m., car doors slamming up and down the block, everyone funneling toward that same arterial I-25 or I-70. We moved them into a Tier B suburb. More space, easier routines, less friction. That's when Denver finally clicked for them. Not louder, just easier. You see, Tier B neighborhoods don't try to impress you. They try to function. You get access without chaos, space without exile. Tier B isn't exciting on paper. It's exciting when your life actually works. That's why so many people who move here end up staying put. Now, this isn't just vibes. Recent state demography and regional planning data show well over half of the net inbound households landing on the in-ring suburbs, not the urban core, not the outer fringe. So think Littleton, Centennial, Broomfield, inner part of Aurora, Arvada. On top of that, buyer search data shows people expanding their acceptable commute radius by roughly 15 to 25% compared to pre-2020 behavior. Payment predictability is winning compared to 5 years ago. Buyers are prioritizing monthly stability over square footage, and they're trading a few extra minutes behind the wheel for fewer daily stress points. Tier B absorbs that reality. Here's the hard truth. You're planning a move to Denver and you don't understand Tier B, and guessing here can get expensive. So I'm your local realtor of choice, and I'm helping dial this in before you even buy. That's what I do every single day. I want to help you make this decision with clarity and not chaos. So call, text, email me anytime. All my information is here in the description. And this is a discovery conversation, not a sales pitch. It can save you months of frustration. All right, this is the tier that people don't brag about online, and they quietly thank themselves for every single morning. Tier A is where life finally exhales. Not because everything's perfect, but because the noise drops. Decisions get easier. Days stop feeling stacked against you. The tell is how your body reacts. You're not rushing, you're not bracing, you're moving through the day without that low-grade tension buzzing in the background. See, mornings start with light instead of alarms. Afternoons don't feel like damage control. Evenings land softer. You're not managing the city anymore. You're using it. These areas usually sit in places like Littleton, near the River Trail, Greenwood Village, pockets off Bellevue, parts of Lakewood by Green Mountain, or calm stretches of South Denver, and parts of Western Arvada too. You've got space, but not exile, quiet, but not isolation. You hear sprinklers clicking on that dusk, dogs barking 2 houses over, the wind moving through trees instead of traffic echoing off the buildings. Night still feels good in a way. What separates Tier A is how little it asks from you. Commutes are predictable, errands are close, routes have backups. One fender bender doesn't nuke your entire evening. Regional mobility data shows that these areas experience roughly 25 to 40% less day-to-day travel time variability compared to I-25 dependent corridors. Now, that sounds boring until you realize consistency is the real luxury here. Stress doesn't spike, it stays flat. This tier rarely makes headlines. It doesn't trend, but when I check back in with clients years later, this is the tier that gets the quiet smile and a line that says, yeah, everything just works here. Buyer behavior backs this up hard too. People who land in Tier A move less and often complain less later too. House retention data shows some of the longest homeowner tenures in the metro, often several years longer than urban core or outer ring areas clustered in these zones. So translation is, people don't just like it here, they settle and they love it. The what if conversations fade out, regret rates drop, life steadies, and here's the part people don't expect. Tier A isn't dull, it's spacious mentally. You start doing more of what you actually enjoy because you're not recovering from the day. Walks turn into habits, weekends feel longer. You're not chasing stimulation because your nervous system isn't fried, right? That's where expectations peak and where reality has the strongest opinion. Tier S, it's the kind of lifestyle that sneaks up on you. It's nothing flashy, nothing loud, just a steady sense that life keeps getting easier the longer you're here. These are the places that feel solid on day one and somehow smoother 6 months later. There's less friction, fewer trade-offs, life stops feeling like a series of workarounds and starts flowing on autopilot. You notice it in the mornings. Morning coffee doesn't require a plan. Groceries are a 5-minute errand, not a strategy meeting. You leave the house without checking traffic 3 times. Evenings stretch out instead of getting eaten up by logistics and sitting in traffic. You're home earlier, calmer, with enough energy left to actually enjoy the night instead of collapsing into it. So the Tier S neighborhoods tend to sit in that sweet spot near Belmar, Sloan's Lake, Wash Park edges, parts of Platt Park, Berkeley, Sunnyside, and along the Cherry Creek corridor. Close enough to feel connected, far enough to breathe. You hear kids playing, bikes rolling by, distant hum of life instead of constant noise. And cities here when you want it. It's not demanding your attention when you don't. What makes this tier special is how forgiving it is. You miss a turn, hit traffic, change plans last minute, it doesn't really punish you. And that matters more over time than people expect. Regional housing and mobility data backs this up. Households in these balanced zones stay put roughly 20 to 30% longer than those in the urban core or the far outer rings of the suburbs. So translation, once people land here, they stop shopping. The lifestyle sticks. Buyer behavior tells the same story. Search data shows buyers who prioritize these areas are far less likely to reopen Zillow within the first year compared to buyers who land further out. Fewer late night spirals. Fewer, maybe we should move again conversations. They're trading a little flash for a lot of ease, and ease scales. Every month feels lighter than the last. Tier S doesn't scream for attention, it earns loyalty. It's not about perfection, it's about momentum. Life gets easier, not louder. That's the win. But here's the tension. A lot of people skip this tier entirely because it doesn't really match the version of Denver they built in their head before moving. And that usually pushes them toward a very different direction at the top of the spectrum. And the next tier, that's where expectations get loud again. So just to be clear, none of these tiers come from vibes, opinions, or scrolling comments. They come from actual patterns, the kind that repeat whether the market's hot, slow, or sideways. They come from data. When you line up migration data, buyer behavior, commute realities, and what people actually do after they move, this shape shows up every time. People didn't stop coming to Denver, they just got more selective. Start with migration. State demography and regional planning data show that net inbound households still is positive, but it's just redistributed. In fact, well over half of net new households in recent years have landed in inner ring suburbs, not the urban core and not the further edge, like outside of the C470. Fewer headline-grabbing downtown moves, more landings in the middle. That's Tier B and Tier S doing their thing. Then layer in buyer behavior. Compared to 5 years ago, buyers are measurably more payment-focused. Now, monthly predictability beats raw square footage. Search data shows that people expanding commute tolerance just enough to make the numbers work, but not so far that daily life breaks. That's why Tier C exists. It looks logical until the friction shows up, and the moment it does, people adjust. Commutes tell the rest of the story. Denver isn't a constant gridlock city. It's variability. One stall car road on I-25, a light snow squeaking under your tires, a random crash on I-70, and the whole evening shifts. You feel it in the way the radio stays on longer, the coffee goes cold in the cup holder, and dinner gets pushed later. Areas with backup routes, shorter hops, and fewer single-point failures outperform long-term. That's Tier A quietly winning without advertising. Even housing tenure backs us up. The longest stays cluster in places that balance access, calm, and predictability. Not the loudest neighborhoods, not the cheapest ones either. The ones where life just sticks cleanly. That's Tier S and Tier A overlapping more than people expect. So when you zoom out, these tiers aren't rankings. They're just outcomes. They're what happens when human behavior meets Denver's geography, infrastructure, and cost structure. Different personalities land differently, right? But the pattern holds. Quick check-in with you. Drop a comment. Tell me which tier you think you'd land in right now and which one you're secretly worried about. I read all these comments because this part tells me more than budgets ever do. Now that you understand the logic behind the tiers, there's one last thing left to unpack. All right, here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They try to pick a suburb like it's a math problem. Budget plus bedrooms plus commute equals answer. And then they move here and realize life doesn't really live on spreadsheets. It lives on Tuesdays, on random errands. How fried you feel at 6:30 p.m. when you're sitting at a red light, watching the sun drop behind that front range and realizing you're still not home. These tiers aren't a ranking. They're a mirror. They're meant to show you how you actually live, not how you think you live. So if you're someone who guards your time like it's oxygen, you already know it. You feel it when a meeting runs late or traffic backs up and your whole evening disappears. Now, those people don't thrive in fighting the city every day. They need predictability, flow, margin. That's why Tier A and Tier S feel so good long-term. Less adrenaline, less cortisol spikes, more control. Buyer behavior backs this data up too. People prioritize predictability, and they're significantly less likely to reopen their home search within the first year compared to the buyers who chase size or price alone. Now, other people who are wired differently. Space calms them down, quiet recharges them. They don't mind planning their days because that structure feels safe. Tier B can be a sweet spot for that personality. Tier C too, as long as they choose it with eyes open and not because the house felt like a good deal. So work patterns matter more than most people admit. Denver isn't all downtown anymore. It's gravity zones. DTC pulls differently than downtown. Hospital corridors behave differently than tech hubs. If your job anchors you along I-25, near DTC and the South Metro Loop, your tier choice either works with that reality or it's gonna fight it every single weekday. And the city always wins that fight. Social life matters too, not the fantasy version, the real one. If you love spontaneous dinners, quick drop-ins, last-minute plans, distance will feel heavier than you expect. If your best nights are quiet ones, that same distance might feel a little relief. Now, neither is better, but confusing the two is where regret starts. So here's the test I always come back to. Picture your life in July. Now, picture it in February. Same drive, same errands, same energy. If one of those versions feels a little exhausting, that's your answer. Denver is easy to romanticize, like most places. It's harder to live in when the routine just doesn't match the location you're in. And if you're stuck between two areas, choose the one that gives you more options, more routes, more flexibility, fewer single points of failure. Now, that difference doesn't show up on listing photos, but it shows up in how long people stay. This is exactly how I guide people through as a local Denver real estate advisor here. So it's not by selling the neighborhoods, it's by matching lifestyles to reality. Because Denver is awesome. Now let me help you not mess this up. And with that lens in mind, it's time to talk about the list everyone wants to see. The rankings that spark arguments, the suburbs people swear by, and the ones that disappoint fast once you're actually living there. See, most people don't fail here. They just misalign. People don't struggle in Denver because they chose badly. They struggle because they chose out of sync with how they actually live. This mismatch doesn't just blow up overnight. It shows up quietly. You got shorter patience, longer days, weekends that really never recharge you. Guessing, waiting, choosing based on how vibes feels harmless at first. But over time, it's the most expensive move you can make. Everything we talk about comes back to alignment. When your routine, your commute, your budget, and your energy point in the same direction, Denver feels easy. And when they don't, the city starts taking more than it gives. It's not dramatically, it's just consistently. Now, I think about a couple that I worked with recently. Nothing was technically wrong with where they landed. The house was fine. Area was okay. Their days were not. Once we shifted tiers, same budget, same city, life loosened up a little bit. Less driving, fewer trade-offs, more margin. Now, that's what alignment buys you. Give you your time back. That's the entire reason this matters. Not the crown winners, not the hype zip codes. It's about choosing places that hold up on a random Tuesday. Not just when the weather's perfect and the listing photos are flattering. If you're planning a move, relocating, or questioning whether your current setup is still fit, that's exactly why I'm here to help you as your local realtor of choice. Now, I guide people like you through these kind of decisions every single day, and I really prioritize clarity instead of the guesswork. So if you want help, I ask you to reach out. Just call, text, email me anytime. My info is in the description. Now, Denver is truly awesome. Let me help you not mess up this move. All right, I appreciate you spending time with me today, and I'll catch you on the next one.